There we go. Okay. So let's rock and roll. All right. Very excited to deliver this to you. You could say that this is 3.5, 4 years in the making. This is a model and a system that I've been refining over several years. And this is really close to my heart because I spent a lot of my 20s working very, very big hours in corporate. And I made a lot of those same mistakes when I came online. It works, but a lot of other areas of your life are going to suffer along the way. And I had a realization in about 2021 when I started working with a mentor that wasn't the path forward. And what you're going to see today is what's really been born out of that process of going deep into trying to achieve what a lot of us set out to achieve, which is balance across all of the key areas of life: wealth, relationships, your own happiness, and mental health. And it's not easy, but to me, it's probably the most worthwhile pursuit, right? I think plowing all your energy into just one area of those while the others decay is a massive mistake. And we see people make this time and time again. Okay, so I'm really excited to deliver this to you. This model and this system is really, really close to my heart. And I hope that you get a lot of value out of what we're going to cover today. Okay, so for today's workshop, I want to share this system with you to create the ultimate lifestyle business for selling your knowledge, your expertise, your advice, or your mentorship in whatever form that ultimately takes. That could be coaching, consulting, a course, a workshop. There's lots of different ways that we can package it up, and the model facilitates doing all those different things. Okay, we're going to go behind the scenes of what I do day in and day out in my own business. I do what I teach, and I teach what I do. So what I do in my business day to day is ultimately what I work on with my clients, and we'll talk about some of that stuff along the way as well. Share the models, frameworks, systems, and strategies that bring all of this together. And then ultimately, and most important for you guys, show you how you can implement this into your own life and business today on your own, or if you choose, you can get my help with it. All right. If anyone's ever been on a presentation with me before, I'm like the least hard sales type person. So that is entirely in your hands, which is the point of this model. So we don't have to hard sell. So we don't have to twist people's arms, right? Who is this for specifically? This is for two different types of people. It's for existing coaches, consultants, mentors, and info product creators who are making between 10K and $1 million per month, who want a lean, simple, and high profit model that lets them live an amazing life while making a lot of money. That's the first bucket. And I've got clients across that entire spectrum that I work with. Or new and aspiring coaches, consultants, mentors, and info product creators who want to build things right from the start, avoid burning out while scaling, and want to make a bunch of money while keeping things lean, simple, and efficient. Okay, I have offers for both those buckets of people, and I work with people across both of those categories. Without kind of tooting my own horn too much, although we have to sometimes, my business experience, I would say, is probably up there with the top 1% online in terms of the breadth of businesses that I've worked with. I've worked with thousands of people online in the startup to like 8-figure phase. And then going back to my corporate career, I worked with a lot of SMEs all the way up to kind of multi-billion-dollar companies. So I've been able to see a lot in my 13, 14-year kind of consulting and advisory career. And the work that I do with my clients ultimately brings all of that together, okay, which is why I'm able to work with people across a broad range of, I guess, situations, okay? Today's workshop, my goal is to keep it in the 60, 90-minute range. We'll see, I can talk. Question time at the end, if we have time, if there's questions. This will be recorded, and I'll get a copy to you guys afterwards. I'll also give you the slides afterwards because they link off to some different resources that I want you to be able to tackle in your own time. And like I said, a little reward. If you want to go and follow me on Instagram, jacob.caris, you want to post a photo on your stories at some point through the workshop and you tag my Instagram, then you can go over to jacobcaris.com/workshops, pick the one that you feel would be most helpful based on where you're at now. And you may have more clarity on which one will be more helpful after we go through the presentation today. And I will hook you up with it afterwards. I'll send it over to you. Okay. But for those of you that are newer to my world, a little bit about who I am. My name is Jacob. I live on the Gold Coast in Australia. If you don't know, that's on the East Coast, about halfway down, with my partner, Liana, who's in that photo. And we've got our 18-month-old son, Hendrik. Liana's also pregnant. We've got another boy being born in March. So busy, busy times. Okay. I started online in 2017, and this was at the same time I was living in New York, and I was doing 80+ hour weeks in corporate, working with those really, really big. The initial phase of my business was built on planes, subways, trains, Ubers, New York cabs, trying to find a way to steer the direction my life was heading in a way. All right. I started out in the affiliate marketing space, won a bunch of awards, and then ultimately went full-time online in September 2018. Just over a year later, late 2019, I launched my first offer. This was called the Super Affiliate Accelerator, and it was essentially sharing all the lessons that I'd picked up from becoming a successful super affiliate myself. And I scaled that coaching offer to $1 million plus in the first 14 months. I got the 2 Comma Club for that. And then since about mid 2021, like I mentioned off the top, for those of you that were on early, I've been on a journey of really finding balance between how do we make a lot of money? How do we stack that money and let it compound for the long term? And how do we do this while nurturing really strong relationships with our family, our partner, our friends, and improving our physical and mental health? I used to look at people who made a bunch of money and worked a lot and be like, wow, that's really admirable. Like, you're so focused and you're so driven and you're so motivated. Slightly older, slightly more mature JC now looks at that and goes, I think that's a massive mistake. I think that's actually the easy way out. It wouldn't be hard for me to be in here at 7 o'clock every morning and leave at 9 o'clock every night. That's really not that hard to do. To sit at a desk all day and to work is actually really, really easy. The hard is narrowing in the scope of that time and distributing your energy strategically across all of those areas so that they all flourish, as opposed to putting it all into one and letting the others burn. Because the reality is, and the harsh reality that a lot of people learn too late, is that you can make money in a lot of different ways. And if you lose all your money, you could get an idea and tomorrow make it all back, right? But relationships with friends, with your partner, with your family, that can be hard to undo. So this is the journey that I've been on over the last 3 years, or 3.5 to 4 years. And this system that I'm going to show you through today has really been born out of that, right? My day-to-day now is I wake up about 6 o'clock each day. It's kind of when my body wakes me up. I spend an hour and either go to the gym or I go, like this morning, I went for a walk along the beach, get a coffee. Then I come home. Usually at that point, Hendrik and Liana are both up. We'll spend an hour and a half together. I'm usually in the office by about 9. I'll be in the office from about 9 until 2, 3 most days. So it's kind of a 5 to 6 hours at the moment of really focused, deep work. Then I'm out the door and I spend the afternoons with Hendrik for the most part. We have dinner, and that's the life. Aside from when we're traveling, right? And in that time, my time is split between working with my clients, growing my own online brand and business, the different offers that I run within that, and managing my investment portfolio, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. Result of this workshop, show you how you can leverage the lifestyle consulting model plus a few other cool systems that I've developed that my clients and I have used to sell millions of dollars while getting back control of our time and freedom, plus keeping things ultra simple and limited to a few moving parts. The ultimate goal of all of this, right? So we're getting narrower. Give you a clear path to true wealth, which I consider all of those areas of life, not just getting rich. And there's a very, very big difference. Okay. So our agenda. Part 1, we're going to tackle a 30,000 foot overview to really set the scene. We're going to start wide and we're going to get more and more narrow. Okay. Then I'm with you what I call my digital flywheel model, right? This is my digital wealth flywheel. This is the practical implementation of the overview that we're going to talk about. Then in particular, we're going to drill into one element of that flywheel model, which is the lifestyle consulting system. And that's the reason that we're here today. Then we're going to go into the implementation of that. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you've got a copy of the playbook that goes with it. I sent it out in the email, so you should have it. That'll be a good reference point for you. And then we'll talk about a couple of next steps. And then depending on time at the end, questions. Okay, so that's our plan of attack. So let's dive in. The main issue for most people online, or the main issue, there's a few, right? Coaches, consultants, experts, mentors who make a lot of money, right? And if you're making a lot of money now, this is going to sound familiar. If you want to make a lot of money and you follow the traditional path, these will become issues, okay? They make a bunch of money, but it's at the expense of their own health, relationships, and freedom. They're drowning in complexity, stress, high fixed costs, and overwhelm. And they lose sight of why they started this all to begin with. So if we can fix these 3 big issues, we can achieve what I would consider a truly wealthy life, where you make way more money than 99% of people. You have systems and strategies in place to compound that money long-term so that you know it's working, right? And then while making that money, growing your wealth, you love your life day to day, and your health, your relationships, and your freedom thrive. Okay. I know all this because this is literally the exact journey that I've been on for the last 3.5 years, plus what I've been working on with clients. So, part one, the 30,000 foot overview. This is what I'm calling my $100 million game plan. Now, I don't consider making it to 100 million net worth winning or losing. I just like having a target. I think having a mission and having a clear North Star and a focus in the different areas of your life is critical, because it gives you show up for each day and build towards and progress. So I think that's important. But this model really breaks down the game plan, right? And so if we start on the left, we've got an orange box. And if you can't see it, I'll read it to you. It says content, ads, email, low ticket offers. These are all things we're going to talk about today. But effectively what these things do is they generate qualified leads or qualified clicks, right? You can call them either thing, right? That's the purple box. It says qualified leads. Those qualified leads are ultimately the people that see our 4, 5, and 6 figure consulting offers, depending on what you are charging. We can interchange the word consulting with coaching, with mentorship in this case. Okay. That flows through to that first green box, which ultimately represents our total sales or our total revenue. All right. Then we need to dilute that number a little bit by our first red box, which says margin and taxes. So we multiply it by our margin, which eliminates our costs. And then we pay taxes on that profit. And we ultimately end up with the second green box, which is NPAT, which is net profit after tax. Right. And we all operate businesses on a cash basis. And so this is cash profit after tax. This is the money that at the end of the day, do with it what you will. Okay. And the way I tackle this is it goes in two directions. Some of it goes into that first red box up on the top that you can see, which says lifestyle. This is where you want to live, the food, the clothes, the car, the watch, supporting your family, all that kind of jazz, right? The stuff you need to spend to live and live well and enjoy your life. The green box, the other direction that the money goes, is investing, right? And then below that, we've got debt, equity, and cash. These are really the main different things that we can put our money into. Then there's also a line from investing that ultimately feeds back up to our first orange boxes, which is simply where we reinvest into the business. Okay. We also have a black box on the far right, which is said when lifestyle caps out, we reinvest the excess. There's going to get to a point where you don't really need much more, right? Where it's like, all right, do I need that extra 20,000 to go buy, whatever stupid thing that I probably don't really need? And then that's where the lifestyle costs kind of cap out. And then that excess money gets fed back into more investing because you don't need it today, right? So you could also categorize those between like today and future. The money gets split, right? This is how I look at it. All right. So that gives a bit of context to the overall model. Now, this is going to change and evolve over time, particularly the left-hand side, which is like, what are we monetizing and what are we selling? But as I sit here today, I can say with relative certainty that I think for the long term, I will sell stuff online. I will create content online. And I love coaching people. I love working with people one-to-one in groups, solving problems. I've done it my whole career and it's a lot of fun for me. So even if the structure, the price of it, who I work with changes and evolves over time, I can see that being a pretty constant element. Aside from that, the model is pretty static. Okay. It's pretty simple, but it's a good starting point. Okay. A couple of key points for when you revisit this, but everything starts on that far left-hand side, the orange box. Everything starts with the ecosystem and the brand and our content. Okay, this is what ultimately generates the focused attention to produce pre-sold leads so that we can send our 4, 5, 6-figure offers to them. And that's where we're going to spend a lot of our time today, is on that ecosystem piece, because for me, that's the money shot. Okay. Your coaching, your consulting, your advice, your mentorship in this model is the significant cash flow driver until your investments reach a point where you're making so much passive income off them that it exceeds that. But you're probably not looking at that until you've got, 5, 10, 15, 20 million net worth, right? Which is very possible. We want to keep the cost, in my opinion, we want to keep the cost lean, This doesn't mean doing everything yourself. It just means having the right systems and processes in place that we're not delegating out stuff that could be eliminated or could be automated. We want to keep our margins high, right? Which we achieve by keeping our costs lean. You want to stay on top of your taxes for a low stress business. We want to keep all these things in check. That's key to a low stress business, right? We ultimately want to balance today versus tomorrow, and then aim to split our net profit between our lifestyle and our investing for the long term. Okay. And like I said, I don't believe in sacrificing the next 10 years for an imaginary future, but I'm still planning in case it happens, right? Let's hope it happens. Little side note on investing. I'm pretty big on keeping investing simple, like most things, keeping them simple. ETFs, I like debt. I think they're great. Fancy can get expensive. I think it's okay to take a small amount and play around with it and try pick stocks and that kind of stuff, but it's pretty hard to beat the market consistently. But that's not financial advice, just giving you my 2 cents. Okay. This is what I call the digital wealth flywheel. And this is a model that excites me very much for a number of reasons. Okay. This synergizes my personal brand / my life with the coaching business, with the investing, right? And if we go back to that model that we had up before, those are really the core components. Okay. The reason that it excites me is because it operates truly like a flywheel, where as it gets better, it gets better. As it gets bigger, it gets more efficient, right? And let me explain what I mean by that. So if we start at the top in the purple box, it says JC brand, which we're going to talk about today, but my brand and my life are very closely connected, right? Which doesn't mean oversharing, but it just means congruency and alignment between the two things. So we start there, right? The more my brand grows, the more people who know who I am, the more people who resonate with me and my message. If we move down the left-hand side of the chart to the green box, it says coaching, consulting, and mentorship. Underneath that has the different offers in my world, right? The more people who know me, the more people who resonate with my message, the more people who spend time with my content. As a byproduct, the more money that side of the equation is ultimately going to spit out, okay? And if we keep moving around, we follow the arrow along the bottom, we end up on the right-hand side, which is my investment portfolio that I manage. The more cash flow that the business spits off, the more cash flow I've got to invest, obviously after the lifestyle stuff that we spoke about before, okay? Now, if we keep following that around, the more the investment portfolio grows, the more cash flow it spits off, the more cash I've got to put back in to my life, which ties into my brand, also just to reinvest directly into the brand, to reinvest into my own learning experiences, all these kind of things, right? It's also tied together in the middle with travel, public speaking, events, networking, masterminds. The more of those that I do, the more all of those areas grow. The more that I speak, the more events that I go to, the more network masterminds, the more the brand grows. And then we can follow that cycle around like we just did, right? Even just from attending these things, you nearly always pick up clients, right? Then as you start to attend these at a certain level, you start to get involved in investment opportunities behind the scenes, right? We can also look at this from an education perspective. My brand grows, the more money I make, the more and this isn't just about me, but you guys can apply the exact same thinking. The more the investments grow, as a byproduct of that, I'm learning lessons along the way, right? The more clients I work with, the more exposure I get to different investment vehicles and different projects and, passive equity and active equity and all these different things, the more I learn, right? Through wins and through failures. All of those lessons feed back into the brand and feed back into the work that I do with my clients, right? It all ultimately feeds back on itself, which is what you want. Okay. The other thing that this model does for me, as you can see on the right-hand side of the slide, that's from my Notion dashboard, where I manage a lot of my stuff for the business and for life, is that it gives me structure into the 3 key areas. There's personal life, there's the operating business, the online business, and then there's the investments, right? These are the 3 key areas that I put my energy and attention into. And so I really like this model because it gives me a North Star to focus on. Okay, it's the practical implementation of that 30,000 foot overview that we spoke about before. All right, and there's some key points here, but I think I probably just covered off most of those. Right, generates immediate cash flow through the coaching and consulting business, and long-term wealth through the investing. Right, the building of the personal brand over time has compound benefits. It attracts clients, up investment opportunities, grows your network, so on and so forth, right? Key point, this third last bullet point, instead of short-term trends, the model focuses on consistent daily actions aligned with that long-term vision, right? I'm not big on when up, you won't see me talking about crypto. When NFTs are blowing up, you're not going to see me talking about NFTs. AI has been all the rage. Yes, I'm using it, but I'm not going to pivot my whole brand overnight to becoming an AI expert. I know what I know. I've done what I've done, and I just focus on that for the long term, right? And this is a very competitive advantage. Okay, by thinking a few steps ahead and really holding the line in terms of what you do, who you help, all these kind of things, it's a really to be in the game for the long term. I haven't made the most money, but I've made a lot of money for a long time, and I've seen a lot of people get wiped out by not having this long term focus. Okay, so we're getting more and more narrow, right? If we look back at the flywheel, what we're focusing in on today is the green section on the left-hand side, the coaching, consulting, mentorship business. And how I run that is with this model. Hopefully you guys like these models. This is how I keep myself focused when I can actually see it and visualize it, right? This is what we're deep on today. So this is what we've been building towards, but I wanted to set the scene to really get here. So this is the model visually, right? We've got 4 components. We're going to talk through most of these today, all right? A couple of key points around this model. The whole thing acts as one big funnel, and then it ultimately feeds back on itself through referrals and word of mouth, right? So if you look at the far left, we've got top of the funnel. That's about cold traffic. It's about attention. It's about width. It's about more people knowing who you are, right? We run an ad, 100,000 people see it, lots of people, right? Then the middle of the funnel is about warming up that traffic, nurturing that audience, building depth of what they know about who you are and what you do. And we're going to talk about all this stuff today. Okay. Then the bottom of the funnel is where a percentage of those people ultimately come to you and you have a conversation, or you go to them, you have a conversation in the way I do it anyway, over the DMs or email. You make them an offer, and then they either say yes or no, right? If they say no, that's fine. They drop back into the middle of the funnel. If they say yes, we move into the post funnel, which is where you do onboarding, deliver, retain, and you can move people through levels, and you ultimately compound, which is where you turn one client into 2 or more. And that's how the whole model feeds back on itself. If you look at the bottom left-hand side, that bottom yellow box is word of mouth, and that's how the whole thing feeds back on itself. So you can see from the 3 models we've looked at, we want things that feed back on themselves, because then they have an element of becoming self-perpetuating, right? We still have to drive them, but they can start to drive themselves a little bit over time, okay? This is what we just touched on for the most part in terms of the key points, okay? So with all that said, implementation. When you get these slides, you'll be able to click that link and grab a copy of the playbook. Some of you have probably already got that. I share that freely. And we're gonna tackle some of the key stuff from that. What I'm giving you is the current version. This evolves, it changes, but I'm just sharing with you guys what I'm doing right now. So hopefully that's cool with you. Okay. Concept I want to put on the table. When I first got my job, I thought freedom was a calendar and having nothing in it, right? Now, I'm still not big on giving my whole calendar away to other people. I want to control the significant majority of the time in my calendar. But having absolute air is a good way to get yourself stuck in circles. And so I'm actually really big on achieving freedom through constraints, putting bumpers and clear boundaries in place and rules that we want to operate by. Okay. Because this gives us to move along and a framework to build within. So some of these points I set out to proactively build in alignment with this, and some of them came after. But the model that we're talking about today, these are really the keys that kind of drive it. Okay. Now, sometimes we have to flex on these things. There's an ideal world and there's the practical world. We have to bend sometimes, but 80-20, right? A lean team. Myself and my VA, that's the whole team at the moment. I've had different people doing different things from time to time, different agencies and different people helping me. And we've got the scope to add, a couple more. But beyond that, in terms of the coaching or consulting, I wouldn't want too much more. And if we did add a couple more, the model could handle a significant amount of volume because of how efficient it is. All right. I want to build an ecosystem that grows and nurtures at scale so that I can cherry pick the people that I want to work with. You never want to be in a position where you have to take a client. Number 3, obviously, I want there to be a long-term ROI for both parties. That's not the end, it's the beginning, right? This is the long-term thinking. We want there to be a long-term ROI for the business, for ourselves, and a long-term ROI for the client where they continue to grow and evolve, okay? I like to actually work with my clients, which is becoming more and more rare in this online space. As we sit here today, every client that I take on, from a $2,000 client to a $50,000 client, I do a kickoff call with them. Now, that probably won't be the case forever, but it is right now. I've got the capacity. And so I will literally sit down and build a custom plan with them because I like doing that as a beginning marker time together. And everyone's in a different situation. Yes, you can apply models and systems and strategies and frameworks as a lens or as like a trace by type situation, but everyone's in a different situation. Everyone's got different experience. Everyone's got different goals. And so if we can spend an hour, 70 minutes really building out a custom plan to kick things off, it's an amazing use of time. All right. Only clients that I want to work with, like I said, I don't want to hard sell, chase. That doesn't mean I won't follow up, but I'm not trying to or twist your arm. It just means you haven't seen enough yet, and that's totally fine. And no calls. Okay. I like having diversified lead flow because if one of them goes down, the other one can pick up the slack. Mondays and Fridays are always clear for me, be that work or life. I contain all my calls to a Tuesday to a Thursday, be that one-to-one calls or group calls. Sometimes I bend on this depending on what's going on, but 90% of the time this holds true. And where this was born out of is before Hendrik was born, Liana and I used to take a lot more weekend trips. I'm really big into my football, Australian football, and I also like really nice wine. What's a great coincidence is that a lot of the football games are near amazing wine regions in Australia. And so we'd take a lot of little weekend trips where we'd go watch the football and then we'd hit up a couple of wineries, right? Now, if we wanted to do that over, say, 3 or 4 days, that naturally rolled into Friday and Monday. And so I reshuffled my schedule so that those were always clear, so I wouldn't be rescheduling calls with clients all the time, right? So that's where that was born out of. I like to max out at about 6 hours of calls per week. Beyond that, I really start to not enjoy being on Zoom. Sometimes we have to, depending on what's going on, but where I can, I'll shuffle things around to try and limit it that, okay? I want to be able to run it from my phone anywhere in the world. And this is where having an assistant helps out a lot because if you can't make it to a computer, they can do things on the computer for you. Very evergreen, not tied to trends. I don't want my business contingent on some SEO hack that the next Google update's going to change everything, right? I want it to be solid, sustainable, evergreen. High leverage, goes without saying. I want the brand and the content to do the heavy lifting, which ties back to the ecosystem. And then I want time and excess cash to be able to build up the investment portfolio and explore other opportunities. And then above all else, time and flexibility to prioritize what is important. Family, friends, travel, footy, food and wine. I'm a pretty simple guy, but if I get time to do those things, I'm pretty happy. Okay. And so when you make these rules, it gives you within, and then you have to find a way to make it work. So let's dial right into this. So starting, if we go back to our model, we're going to start with the top and the middle of the funnel. The reason I'm bringing these two together is that they work very closely together. Then we'll talk about bottom of funnel. Okay. We're not going to touch on post funnel today because that really depends on what you're ultimately selling. And that's where, delivery and ascension structures and deliverables and all that kind of stuff. It's very case by case. So we're going to, for the most part, talk about the acquisition side of things today, which I think is what most people are interested in anyway, which is the top, middle, and the bottom of the funnel. Okay, I've made an important note down there, which I'll repeat a few times, but this is my ecosystem. Pay less attention to the absolute platform and probably pay more attention to the function that platform is serving. And so what I mean by that is Facebook, for example, is a feed-driven platform like Instagram is. This could be LinkedIn, right? Or X/Twitter, a feed-driven, active, fast-moving platform, right? YouTube, as an example, is a long form content platform, right? It's obviously audio and video together. This could be swapped out for a podcast. Okay. It could arguably also be swapped out for like a blog or a Substack thing, but I do like people being able to spend time with us and see us and hear us. I think that's a very important element. So, what's less important is the absolute platform, and what's more important is the function that it's serving in the model. Okay. If that makes sense. So, let's dive in. A couple of fundamentals around the top and the middle of the funnel, right? They go very closely hand in hand. In my business, right now, and for the last few years, this is Facebook and Instagram with a heavy tilt towards Facebook, just because that's where I've always been. YouTube, email, low ticket offers. Okay. I put low ticket offers in the middle of the funnel because it's ultimately just another pathway to those 4, 5, and 6 figure coaching consulting offers, which is where we're on people to that far right hand side. Okay. I'm also currently experimenting with bolting on things like LinkedIn, X, Substack as supplementary platforms. That's more about repurposing than creating more unique content. Okay. But, I've got clients who we mix and match this. And this is why it's really important for me to do the initial kind of diagnostic and help them build a plan, is because then we can tailor it to their individual ecosystem and make sure that it's got the requisite parts that it needs. So if we start with Facebook, for example, right, for me, this plays a big part in the top and the middle of funnel. And it really just starts with the good old profile. I like the profile because it's very easy for me to just put stream of consciousness. I can write stuff. I can post videos. It's kind of like a whiteboard or like a sounding board, but you want it to be clear, who do you help and what's the next step you ultimately want people to take, right? I build lifestyle consulting businesses. And then there's a link over to my playbook, which is my main kind of lead magnet in the coaching business. Clean, keep it simple, keep it professional. And these fundamentals apply to setting up any social media platform. Okay. So I write or post daily on my profile, right? This takes me about 5 to 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be difficult. And I'm going to talk you through content strategy today to make content easier than ever before. You'll never run out of ideas. Okay. It's either going to be a short or long form written piece, or I'm going to be sharing another piece of content. It's going to be sharing another piece of content in my ecosystem to ultimately move people around. So it could be on a Saturday. So for example, on a Saturday night, I send out an email newsletter. On a Saturday, I could post to get them to join the newsletter. Or on a Tuesday night, I drop a YouTube video. So typically on a Wednesday morning, I'm going to post the YouTube video. Or if I've got a new resource that I want to share, it could be that, right? And so it's either going to be a static piece of content that sits on the platform, or it's going to be a piece of content to move them to another part of the ecosystem. Okay. The key with, just to take a little sidestep, if we look at this top and the middle of funnel, think about to give you a very basic analogy, think about it like a washing machine, right? Someone finds you, and how they find you can vary, right? They might see a short form video. They might find you on YouTube. They might see an ad and join your list, wherever. Somehow they stumble into your world. The ecosystem is this thing that's constantly spinning, right? If you go over to my Facebook profile, you're going to see a link to a video over to my YouTube channel. Or you go over to my Facebook profile, then you can join my list. Once you're on my list, I'm going to send you to resource that sends you off down all these other rabbits. And it's all contained within this ecosystem. And what I'm engineering and what you should be engineering in your business is one thing: time spent together, because that is how relationships are built. Relationships are built through time spent together, through shared experiences, right? And so we want to engineer an ecosystem that gives people different ways that they can spend time with us, because the more time we spend together, the stronger the connection, which ultimately takes the heavy lifting off needing to sell. The more they know about who you are, the more they know about what you do, the less you need to do that one-to-one. Getting back more specifically to Meta, this is something that I've just been experimenting with. And I'm not sharing this to say you need to go and do this tactic. I've just been making these really like raw daily videos where I might share a little story, or I might share a little result, a little bit behind the scenes, give a call to action, just playing around with it, right? The reason I'm showing you this isn't so that you go and do this, but it's to show you that all these years on, millions and millions of dollars into this, I'm still experimenting, right? I'm still trying different things because if we look down at that last bullet point, content is about the cumulative effect of your message over time. And so I'm open to experimenting to see what hits and to what achieves this. For some people, it can take 24 hours and it hits and they move forward. For some people, it can take 4 years. The beauty is that we're tapping into one of the highest forms of leverage, media, and it doesn't matter how long it takes because we can talk to 10,000, 50,000, 400,000 people at once. This is the difference between a marketing driven business and a sales driven business. There's no right or wrong. A sales driven business is achieving leverage through people. A marketing driven business is achieving leverage through media. I choose to go in that direction because media doesn't require a salary. Production, eventually, yes, but you can produce it with a phone. That's a massive shift. So I show you this not to say, go and do this strategy. This is the next fucking big thing. I tell you this to say, experiment. Like I said back here, I'm also experimenting with bolting on LinkedIn, Substack, supplementary platforms, because all I care about is spending time with my audience. And however I can achieve that, great. And I'm going to tell you why that's important. I think this is up a lot of light bulbs for people. This one slide boils down $6 million made, over 6 million, with simple written posts, simple emails, the most basic videos you'll ever see on YouTube. It's this. Engineer the moment. So I was telling you before about how content is about the cumulative effect of your message over time. Okay. This is what it's ultimately building towards. If you guys have experienced this in one of two ways or both, where you put out a piece of content and then very rapidly after that, someone's in your inbox and they want to go ahead. It's because something in that piece hit. But without what came before, they probably wouldn't have had the context in order to move forward. You've probably also experienced this as a buyer. And I love it when this happens. I love it. I lean into it. I embrace it. When I see a video or a post and I can feel myself getting pulled in, I stop and I go, what's happening? Because I know this is about to happen. And I find this fascinating. And it's not a coincidence, it's engineered. There's 3 elements that go into it. 2 of them we control. One of them is on the prospect. And so if we talk first about these 2 areas that we control, this is about educating people on who you are and what you do. Here's why it's critical to have a blend of both. Let's say I never did a training like this where we're getting into, principles and strategies and tactics. And all I ever did was post on my profile, like, look at my nice watch and look at the beach and like look at this life that I'm living. There's people who'd reach out and there's people who'd pay me. Right. But there's going to be a significant chunk of people who don't because they go, that's nice. But like, what do you do? Now, the inverse, if I only create strategic how-to content and I only share results and I only talk about strategies and tactics and models and my intellectual property, I'll get people who buy 100%. I'm still going to make money. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where everybody has a service that's one of a kind. Right. And so where people go next in their decision-making process is they look at who do they connect with most on a more personal level. Right. You can make money with one of them, but you'll make a hell of a lot more with both of them. It's not about being an influencer. It's not about the stupid lifestyle shit. It's giving people a window into what makes you tick. And this is as much to attract people as it is to repel people. On the left-hand side, who you are content, connect with people on a deeper level. Think about this as the context, right? This is the deeper context that primes people for the what you do, right? It's the deepest than the what you do content. These are your life stories, your experience, your wins, your failures, your lifestyles, your principles and your values, your philosophies and your beliefs. And you better have some clear and strong ones. Like you got to figure out who you are and what you stand for. And you got to be able to be prepared to put it on the line and defend it and repeat it. And you've got to be also prepared to grow and evolve and contradict yourself and own that and go, I used to think this, now I think this. Here's how I've changed and evolved. That's a great way to connect with people because while we may look the same or we've got a few more wrinkles over the years, what the person in here changes. Like significantly different person now than I was 10 years ago. Definitely got more wrinkles, but fundamentally, right? And then the what you do content, most people are actually pretty good at this, but this is just about demonstrating that you know your shit, right? That you're relevant to them, that you can solve a problem, that you can help them achieve a goal, that you walk the walk. And for legit operators, this is actually becoming easier because there's so many people who are talking about things that they haven't done. But this is your systems and your frameworks and your models and your strategies and your results and client results and the products and services that you offer, the problems you solve and the outcomes you achieve, all these things. Most people are pretty good at that. That's not that tricky to do. Where most people fall down is they don't pair it with the more personal side. Okay. Now, actually, before we tick on, I just want to touch on this. I didn't do a slide on it, but I want to touch on this bottom circle. Okay. This is something that gets spoken about nearly enough, right? And this is the prospect's journey. So wind back even just a couple of years, I was very big on like, if you get, and this purple book from Mr. Hormozy has done a lot of this to people as well, but I was very big on like, if you get the right offer, pretty much everything else washes away. And I think there's some truth in that, but I had an experience. I was telling you guys, dad was unwell and he was in hospital for treatment, and I was sitting with him, and there was a guy in my emails chasing me about doing some copywriting work, and his offer was brilliant. It was pretty much like, I'm going to do everything, and if it makes money, you can have like 95% of it, and I'll just take a 5% success fee. And it was really relevant to what I was looking at the time and all this kind of shit. But do you reckon I gave, two hoots about a bit more money when I was sitting with dad he was going through hell? Like, the offer was great, but my journey, my timing, the problems that I was focused on at that point in time and the goals I was trying to achieve, they didn't align. And this get like physically angry at the sales industry, or at least how the sales industry merges with the work that we do as coaches, consultants, mentors, is because they're told price isn't a real objection. If people don't want to move ahead now, they're not serious. And it's like, pardon my language, but like, get fucked. I'm sorry, but get fucked. You have no idea what somebody is going through. You just don't. And we're all dealing with shit in different ways, right? And so if they tell you they don't want to do it now, that's their prerogative. If you are so insecure in your business that you think if they get a call or leave the DM that they're never going to come back, do you know what that tells me? You've got a shitload of work to do on your ecosystem, because it's leaking. It's leaking like crazy, all right? Bit of a soapbox, but everyone's on an individual path in terms of their timing that they want to solve a problem and the timing they want to achieve goals. And life throws up these hurdles, and we need to be prepared to give people space and time to work through them. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean we throw our hands in the air and don't do anything, right? Let me give you I did this on another call earlier and people were laughing about it, but if you imagine this is me and this is a prospect, right? Say I'm sharing content and prospects consuming content. We're moving in parallel, and they about an offer, and I lean in and give them the offer, and we meet, right? Now, let's say the same day I do that, this might be a bit of a morbid example, but their dog dies, right? And this is the family dog they've had for 250 years, and everybody loved Max, and everyone's distraught, and the kids are devastated, and mum's dealing with it all, and mum's deal with the dog and the vet and pay the bills and all that kind of shit, right? Mum at that point probably doesn't give two fucks about a coaching program, right? And so mum either says, look, thanks, but no thanks right now. Max the dog just died, or she just disappears. Whatever, it happens, right? And so we part ways for now. She goes back into my middle of funnel, and I keep creating content. Here's what happens a lot of is people's ecosystem is lacking, their omnipresence is off, and in their mind, because the lead said no, or because the lead ghosted, or because the lead said maybe but not now, they're dead. They're done, right? They like write them off mentally, right? They might people get real bent out of shape. They might kick them off their list. They stop sending them resources if they request them. They stop replying, whatever, right? People write them off. Yeah, we've all done this at different times, right? And so what happens is now Sally continues on her journey. right? And it's like a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the track, and Sally's like, "Oh, I think I'm ready to like look at that thing again now. We're in a better space." And so Sally looks in. Where are you? She's looking around. You're nowhere to be found. So where does Sally's money go? Somewhere else, right? If we wind back the clock, we rerun that scenario. Sally comes over, you make the offer, Max dies, and then we continue on. We keep posting our daily content, we keep running our ads, keep doing what we're doing, right? Because we know it's just a matter of timing. And if I keep showing up and I keep improving my products and I keep improving my offers and I keep delivering value to the market, that there's every come back. And so we keep doing it and we move in step. Our lives continue, time continues. And then Sally looks in and it's a Sunday night and you've made a banger offer and you get paid. That's the third circle. Okay. Timing. How we stack the deck is through our raw consistency, is through our omnipresence, is through the different touch points in our ecosystem, is through realizing that a no doesn't mean no forever and it may just mean not now in a lot of cases. All these different things. And throwing your hands in the air doesn't achieve anything. Go and make your products better. Go and make your marketing better. Go and make your content better. There's all these things that you can do while Sally's off grieving the dog, to draw on our analogy, so that when she is ready, and that's one prospect, extrapolate that out of people and you see the real impact and the importance of this, right? Let me know if that's hit. That little circle. We're digging it. We understand. I'm giving you guys a little, I'm not going to touch on this too much, but there's a sample cadence, right? And when you get these slides, I've given you examples of those different posts. I've given you a little SOP for growing your profile if you want to go down that path. Okay. There's an example post structure for you. Okay. Share a free resource, share a story, share a part of your model, share some deeper value, some how to make an offer, share a client result, Sunday, it's weekend, a little bit of lifestyle, tell people a little bit about what you're up to, right? Basic structure. Okay. We can also take this and we can amplify it with paid ads. So the content that we post on Facebook, content that we post on Instagram, we can get that out to more people with paid media. Simple campaign structure on the right, cold, nurture, convert. My goal with my cold traffic is I want them on my list because I own my list. I get them on my email list. Once they're on my email list, and we're going to talk about how to run email, I can move them anywhere in the ecosystem that I want as long as I can get them to open the emails. Okay. We can also remarket with our existing content to increase its reach. We can also remarket with offers. Okay. This is not a particularly complicated ad strategy. I think people make ads more complicated. It's taking the existing ecosystem and just putting some steroids, putting a bit of money behind it. I should mention though, I was probably, 5 million in before I started running ads. So it's not necessary, but it can speed things up. Okay. I'm not going to spend too much time on this today, but it is a great way to amplify your reach to new people and know that each day there's 20, 50, 100 new people joining your list. You don't even have to think about it. And it's also a great way to get more juice out of a piece of content. If a piece of content hits organically, just remarket your whole audience with that piece of content around the clock. So they see it and they really see it. And then the people that find you, the people that see that content, they're probably going to be a good fit for one of your offers at some point. So you can put a low ticket offer in front of them. You can put an application form in front of them. Lots of cool shit we can do. Okay. All ecosystem driven. Just keep thinking in terms of ecosystems. These are two that don't get spoken much, particularly the one on the left here. OPP stands for other people's platforms. A lot of people talk about OPM, other people's money. I talk in terms of OPP, other people's platforms. Set aside a bit of time each week, even if it's 15 minutes. Research and execute on getting your content, your story, your value, your message in front of other people's audiences where there is a complementary, not competing focus. Okay. This could be an interview. It could be a training. It could be a worksheet. It could be a mini course. It could be whatever. Okay. When we talk about traffic, people almost think that they need to like the traffic in terms of like, it's not already there, right? Like generating energy. It's there. You've just got to point it to you. Right. And there's all these people out there who've already done a lot of hard work and building up their audience. Your ideal clients are sitting there and they're just in someone else's audience. Right. So if we can send them our way, and this is why I say complementary focus, not competing focus. Right. Why wouldn't we do that? Okay. You could appear on someone else's podcast. You can do a training in their group. You get their course inside your mastermind. You can be a guest speaker inside their mastermind, whatever it is. Okay. These are all highly valuable assets that all point back to you. Give you one example. There's many examples I can give you, but one of them, I did a presentation at a mastermind in Florida back in 2019 in the affiliate space. I still get leads daily, particularly Australians reach out, right? Because this sits in their members area, which they've put tens and tens of thousands of people into over time. Okay. So that was, yeah, I flew over, but I was going over anyway. But the presentation took me like 90 minutes. Hundreds of thousands of dollars would be traced back to that. Okay. So as much as you can build these and get creative with it, you can do swaps, right? If you're a specialist in one thing and someone else is a specialist in another thing, and it's going to be of value to their clients and your stuff's going to be of value to their client, like do swaps. Every one of these that you set up, it takes a little bit of time and it sits there forever. Okay. And if you get in the door of something and then it blows up, this probably won't bring you the most amount of traffic, but the quality of it, right? If you get your stuff inside someone's $5,000 coaching program, every person that sees it has already qualified themselves up to $5,000. If you compared that one person versus maybe 1,000 leads off a Facebook ad, like it's wild, right? So this is a big area to invest time in. It's a slow and steady and it's a trickle, but the quality is unbelievable. Okay. You also get the transfer of trust. So if I show up in someone else's platform without them even needing to say it, I've immediately got a higher level of trust with the person watching it because the host or the owner of that audience put me. And so they come to you way further along the prospect spectrum in terms of trust and education, depending on the asset that they've come from. And then word of mouth, there's a lot of different, tactics and games you can play with word of mouth, but it fundamentally comes down getting people good results. And if you do that, they'll be pretty happy to sing your praises. You do need to ask a lot of the time. It's like getting testimonials. Like you do need to ask if they know anybody. But yeah, if you get them good results, they'll be happy to talk about you. So I try to keep word of mouth pretty simple. Email marketing. All right. I keep email very simple. You're probably picking up a theme here in terms of keeping things simple. 99% of what I do is broadcasts. And so if you're not familiar with email marketing, you've got like autoresponder sequences and you've got broadcasts. A broadcast is something that's sent out live in real time, and autoresponder sequence is something that's built in advance and kind of just rocks and rolls. I'm about to start building out a lot more automations. Got another kid on the way. Time's getting tighter and tighter. But for the most part, 99% of what I've done with email so far has been broadcasts. I use it to move people around the ecosystem for the most part. That doesn't mean I don't make offers, but this is how I think about it. If you imagine your ecosystem is like a world and it's got different cities or different countries or different islands or however your ecosystem comes up in your head, think of this as the roads or the train line, right? This is what people from town A to town B, from YouTube to a Facebook group, right? And so I really send 4 types of emails. The first one is story or a deeper piece of value or a client result, that type of email where I'm just writing something up and I make an offer. Second type is I'll link them off to another piece of content, move them around that ecosystem, and I'll make an offer. How you can do that is, hey, I just dropped this new YouTube video, go check it out. PS, after you've watched this, if you want help with blank, reply to my email or go here. Totally okay to do that. Okay. Something I started doing in Q4 last year is a weekly newsletter. This is a weekly deep dive value piece. I've given you an example there. So when you get these slides, you'll be able to check that out. Some of you may have seen these. I don't know. And so that's a deep dive on a particular topic and an offer. And then on Sunday, I've been sending out what I call a weekly recap, which is where I look at everything that happened during the week, the videos that I put out, the posts that I put out, the video, the newsletter that I sent, any podcasts I did, any other stuff that went down, and I put it all into one email. And it goes out on a Sunday evening, my Sunday morning for most people, and it gets them caught up. So that's just getting more juice out of the stuff I've done throughout the week, and it's a good marker for the new week, and it has an offer. So there's a constant theme there, which is nearly always, 99% of the time, it has an offer. And the reason that I do that with email is because we're not punished for making offers. Whereas the algorithms on social media, you can't say the same. They don't like it as much. I wish they did, but they don't. Okay. So that's how I tackle email, right? Even if you just did one of those a week, you're sending out 4 emails, you're sending out way more than most people. People build a list, never email them. Some people build a list, send one a week. You can follow that 4-part cadence. You're going to be ahead of a lot of people. and you'll get good results because you're making 4 offers a week. You can do more. Do 2 of the stories, 2 of the values, 2 of the client, whatever, right? Link off to 2 different pieces of content, do your newsletter, recap. YouTube. This is a fun one. So I use YouTube in a pretty different way to most people. You can use YouTube in 2 ways. You can think about a university degree or a college degree. You typically have people that will do a major and a minor, right? So I might do a business degree, majoring in accounting, minoring in marketing or whatever, right? If you think about a YouTube channel, I think you can tackle it in one of 2 ways. You can either major in top of funnel and minor in middle of funnel, or you can major in middle of funnel and minor in top of funnel, right? What I mean by that is, for the most part, you're going to create content that either is really good for your existing audience or it's really good at getting new people. Okay. Now, either is fine, but if you want to go down the path of it getting in front of a lot of people, you're going to have to lean more into like really high production value, setting up the cameras and the lighting and the audio and the editing and the scripting, and it becomes a whole process. Right now, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a video creator. I make little presentations and grab my phone and just share the stuff that I know. Right. And so for that reason, I've used it more as a middle of funnel asset to nurture my existing audience rather than trying to use it to get in front of new people. But when you do it, you're still going to pick up some new people when you do it that way, just because of algorithms and, videos. Like I put that, I don't know if you guys can see it, but the 5th last video is a 3-hour deep dive I did. That's got like 1,200 views, which is a lot for my channel. But that got in front of a bunch of new people because the algorithm picked it up. So it's still going to happen. It's just not the goal. The goal is to spend time with the people who are already in your audience. Okay. And so if you're doing this, you want, other growth strategies in place, like we spoke about. You want the ad, or you want the, be growing on LinkedIn or tapping into other people's audiences, or ultimately a combination of. But the reason I love this as a middle of funnel asset is that nothing quite hits the same as spending time together when they can see you and they can hear you, right? When someone does that and they spend 5, 10, 15 hours with you, nothing really hits the same, right? This channel's got 6,500 subscribers. I can easily attribute over $1 million to it, directly and indirectly. Directly as in like they watched the video and bought, indirectly as in like they watched a bunch of videos and then bought down the line. But YouTube was part of the process, way more than that, but yeah, easily $1 million. Okay. So just understanding how you use it. And that's the key to extracting money with low views and subs, right? Okay. So that's how I tackle YouTube. I love it. Free community. So this could be a Facebook group. This could be a school group. It can be whatever. So I use the group now. I really fell out of I've had the group since 2018 and I fell out of love with it. And I realized that why I'd fallen out of love with it is I didn't have a clear strategy. And so I thought, there's like 4,000-ish people, 4,500 people in here. Like, surely there's money to be made, right? And this was about the middle of last year. And so I sat down and I planned out and I said, I looked at some groups that were killing or were doing well. And I was like, what's the most bare bones way that I can run this? Okay. And I'm going to share that with you. A way to think about this is, if you imagine you've got let's say you've got, you're running ads, you've got your profile, you're growing your list, and you're doing YouTube, and then you've got your offers. You can almost imagine this as like a safety net that sits under that process. This is where a lot of your really active leads are going to trickle into. And it's just another way to stay omnipresent if we think about that, prospect timing element that we spoke about before. Okay. And so from a growth perspective, you can use the SOP that I linked off at the start. You can direct traffic from other places. You can, make designated posts on certain platforms and bring people over. You can share links in your stories. You can send emails. You can link off your YouTube videos, or you can even run ads, right? You can have a funnel where someone opts in and then you send them to the group, or you can run like lead gen ads directly to the group. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. If you're going to do it though, I'd make sure you get their email first, because that's the thing you want to own, right? This is the money. Okay. This is it. Takes me about an hour a week. What I do is each week I pick out I either pick out or I create one highly valuable free resource from the vault that is aligned to how I help my clients, right? And so you can see here, it's called the Lifestyle Consulting Community. Everything is very congruent. We're talking about the lifestyle consulting system. I have my Lifestyle Business Academy, right? We have the lifestyle consulting playbook that you guys do. It's all very aligned. It's all congruent. It's all moving in the same direction. And so what I'll do each week is I'll either pull one of the resources that I have out of the vault, or if there's something new that I want to create, I'll create it, right? And it doesn't have to be, rocket science. It could be a Google Doc with a Loom video talking through something in particular. Okay. But I know the path that I help my clients on. I know the end goal. And so I look at, okay, well, what are the things that I can give people that are going to help them along that process in some way, shape, or form? Because if your free stuff can get people light moments that gets them moving, really helps with engineering the moment. Okay. And so once I've got that idea, I turn it into 3 simple posts. I schedule them out 48 hours apart, covers the whole week, right? I'll also layer in 1 offer post in there. So in a week, there's usually 4 posts going out. There's 3 resource posts and there's an offer post. That's it. Covers the whole week. And then, and the 3 posts all point back to this. They're all CTAs for that same 1 resource. Because what people ask this question, it's like the same thing. It's like, yeah, because people aren't in the group. They're just seeing the group in their feed. It's just another post to them, right? And so the first one will be a longer form written post. The second one will be a shorter form written post with typically a more eye-catching graphic. There's all examples of this in the playbook. And then the third one is literally one of those like colored squares, purple, black, whatever. All saying comment this word, and I'll get you the thing. And then either myself or my VA will send the resource out to people who request it, and that literally takes a couple of minutes a day. This is opening up DM conversations, and if I feel like I can help them, I'll make them an offer. It could be for a workshop, academy, inner circle, platinum, whatever. Sometimes I'll reuse those posts or reuse that content in email, profile, that kind of stuff. But that's the strategy, literally an hour a week. If you wanted to do a bit more heavy lifting on the sales side, I'm pretty convinced that you could take that alone and make 30, 40, 50 grand a month with it. If you put enough volume into it in terms of traffic, the resources were good enough, and you or you hired someone to help you more DM conversations, I think this alone could crush. Okay. So that's free community. When new people join the group now, they go in and they're like a kid in a candy store because it's like, oh my God, I want that thing and I want that thing. I said it before. What's the one thing we're trying to engineer? What do we want people to do? Who is paying attention? What do we want? Time. And come into the community and they request 5, 6, 7 resources. And each of them has a Loom with them that's 10 to 30 minutes. Do the math. Right? Now, yes, a lot of the times people don't watch it, but I don't give a shit about that. A lot of the time people do as well. And so you build up this catalog. Now, whenever someone joins, there's all the shit that they can request. I'd fallen out of love with the group. This made me fall back in love with it. I'm doing this right now. I love it. It's as simple as it gets. I've got a half an Monday morning in my calendar where I pick out the resource, do the post. You can even use AI to help you with the posts. Little dirty little secret. But I've done it that many times now. It's the same structure. Why make life harder than we need to be? And it gives me new DM convos every day. Cool. You can apply that to any platform. You could apply that to a profile. You could apply that to anything. Doesn't matter. Just strategic thinking. Minimalist, high leverage, getting more juice out of the stuff that we've already got. You can keep taking this thinking further and further too. Like what I did in the last week of December was I made a Notion document with all the resources that I'd shared through the year. And then that became the resource for the last week. And that hundreds of people requested that. And so I'm getting more juice out of the stuff that I already shared. Think leverage. Okay. Low ticket offers. So like before, I think about these as middle of funnel as well, because they're really just about spending more time with people. And typically, if someone's buying $100 workshop, they're not yet in a 4, 5, or 6 figure consulting type or coaching type arrangement. It's what comes before that. Okay. These are a lot of fun. They're a great way to spend time with your audience. They're a great way to make a bit of cash. They're a great way to see who's paying attention enough to pull out their wallet and spend $100. People always say like free versus paid. What's the deal? This is the thing you need to understand. Free content like YouTube is amazing because more people can see it because it's free. But because it's free, they'll pay less attention to it. Doesn't mean they pay no attention to it. They just pay less attention to it. Paid content is great because people pay more attention to it because they've paid for it, but fewer people are going to see it because they have to pay for it. This is the trade-off, right? Ultimately, do a bit of both and have fun with it. I've got some guidelines for you here on how to do these. Always sell them before you deliver them. Hopefully that hits home. Okay. You're getting paid to build an asset that you can then sell 24/7. So those sit on my website. People buy them randomly. It's great, right? I sell one a day. That's an extra $3,000 a month. Happy days. Okay. I like $50 to $100 in most cases for these like workshop style or little bundles and stuff, just because it's such like a impulse. You run these sessions 90 to 120. Often they run longer. You can bolt on a second call as a Q&A if you really want to over deliver, right? If you're gonna do a Q&A, I'm charging 200 because it's 2 calls. Okay. I like to give free access to these workshops to all my higher level customers and clients. It's a great goodwill builder. It's a great way to reteach subjects, give them reminders. So like when I do one of these, I give all my academy members access. I give all my inner circle private clients access. I say, hey, come hang out. It's a lot of fun. If you want to get the ball rolling, let's say you decided today that you were one of these in February, right? Like let's say there's one piece of the thing you coach people on and you're like, I'm going to do a workshop in February and I'm going to charge $100 for it. You could do a 3-day promotion now and sell it for $50. Do a pre-sale, right? Hey, I'm doing a workshop in February for the next 72 hours. You can get in for 50% off. It just gets the mojo flowing and you get, a bit of cash flow, a bit of feedback, right? Then when you launch it in Feb, sell it for $100. After you deliver it, follow up with everyone who bought, make sure they saw it, time together, right? And see if you can help them further. Great way to ascend people up, okay? And then how I sell them is I use pretty simple one-page funnels. You guys can see examples of them on the website I gave you off the top. And I use that same funnel before I deliver it and after I deliver it, I just change the copy. Couple of little strategic points. The more narrow the topic, typically, the better it will sell. So to give you an example, if you look at the workshops on that page, the YouTube one sold the most. Yeah, at live. I couldn't tell you evergreen, but live, like before I delivered it, the YouTube one sold the most because it's very specific. The other thing, the more curiosity, the better it will sell. Low ticket is a lot about what's in it for me and how curious am I? Because people will pay $100 to scratch an itch. There could be one line of copy. There could be one bonus. They'll pay $100 to scratch that itch. So the more curiosity, the better it'll sell. All right. That one was very narrow in terms of it's just YouTube. It was very high curiosity because I was saying I've made $1 million from a channel with like 6,000 subscribers, which like small number, big number, people can't compute. So it's like, and the more you show people what's in it for them, the better. I don't think that performed the best in terms of ascensions because I'm not a YouTube guy. The other ones, like for example, the personal branding one and the content one, tackle bigger, broader topics, but it's a lot more congruent to what I do. So those yielded higher ascension. And so what I'm just saying here is you don't always have to focus on selling as many as possible because sometimes workshops that get less volume on the front end will attract a better prospect for your back end offers. So think about that congruency. Okay. And then the other important thing is too, you don't want to just and get as many people in as possible. You do the stuff that you really want to teach and that really excites you because you're going to show it with a better energy anyway, which is going to yield better results. Keep it simple, have fun with it. That's what's going to work long term. Quick little recap of what we've covered. Focus relentlessly on growing and nurturing your audience daily. You want at least one, ideally multiple place where new people are finding you every day so you don't have to think about it. Then you can just focus on building the content in the ecosystem and making it as valuable and as enjoyable for people to be part of. Ideally, the goal is to make traditional selling obsolete. So you don't have to spend ages going back and forth. So you don't have to aggressively follow up and twist people's arms, right? We want it to feel like a very natural thing where they have this feeling of like, all right, let's go. Okay. Find ways that you can integrate your life as much as possible, bring people along on that journey and try and synergize those things together and just think really long term with this. I think having a strong personal brand is like, it's such a money hack for the long term if you nurture it and play it right. Okay. So what we've spoken about today really just boils down to building that kick-ass ecosystem. Okay. Now, bottom of the funnel. So now we're on the far right. So if we set the scene, we've got our ecosystem, it's humming along, it's growing, it's nurturing, people are moving around, they're clicking here, they're buying a workshop, they're in the group, they're watching videos or whatever your variation of that is. All roads lead, for me, to 2 places, email and the DMs. This could be my Facebook DMs, Instagram DMs, or someone replies to an email. They reach out, or they fill out an application, which ends up in my email. Okay. These are the places where the conversations happen. I try not to have long back and forths on email. They're typically quite short, sharp, to the point. But it's a one. This is in that blue box. It moves to a one-to-one dynamic, because when we're selling higher price stuff, we need to ramp up the intimacy. And what I mean by that is it needs to go from being like a funnel to two people. All business is people to people. Take your B2C, B2C, B2B to C to C to B, people to people, right? Person to person. That's all it is. And so when we want to sell more expensive stuff, we've got to ramp up the intimacy. And so that happens either an email exchange or a DM exchange. And then in my world, we're either talking about the academy, inner circle, or what I call platinum, which is for a small percentage of people. So we've got three moving parts here. We've got the offer, and then within that is the offer doc. We've got lead generation, inbound and outbound, and we've got the conversation, which is, as I said, is either email or DM. I touched on this before, but you've got most coaches out there running a sales-driven business, and this is why they're constantly on the phone. When you move to a sale by chat, and when I say chat, just assume that includes emails as well, the prospect can walk away, right? I got my phone, you're DMing me, I can just put it down and then move on, okay? And so we want to build a marketing-driven business. That's the fix to the change in sales strategy, right? And that's what we've been talking about. Okay, but it's an important distinction. You can't tackle this the same way as the, pound the phones type crowd. That's a way to do it. It just depends on the business that you want. Okay. And then ultimately the document that you're sending them, it's not to educate them on who you are and what you do and your background and all this stuff. Like that shit's got to be done already. The document is just about confirming the logistics of what the offer's all about with a pre-sold prospect. So if they're not convinced on you yet, they're probably not going to buy. There's very little that the offer doc can do if they're not sold on you. I didn't intend for that to rhyme. The critical part at the top of the offer doc, two elements to it: problem, situation, solution. Okay. We want to grab their attention. We want to show them that we understand the problem. We want to demonstrate that we know their desired outcome and then present our solution to it. In a nutshell, what are we going to do together and how are we going to do it? Aim to keep this to 1 to 2 pages, and it needs to be aligned to all the stuff that you've put out into the market. Okay. I'm giving you an example there from my Lifestyle Business Academy document. Okay. This is a natural transition from the ecosystem. That we want to go into crystal clear deliverables. Here's what you're going to get first. Here's what you're going to get second. And those need to show how you're going to execute on this plan together. So it's what we're going to achieve, the plan of attack to bring it to life, and then the real world elements, the tangible deliverables to execute on the plan. Okay. And I just follow a simple 2-step format. What's the deliverable, why it matters, and provide a more detailed breakdown. Right. So for example, 1-to-1 coaching call plus custom strategy plan with JC. In the first 7 to 10 days after you jump into LBA, you and I will hop on a 1-to-1 call to map out your custom strategy. I'll build you a custom strategy plus tell you exactly what training to focus on, how to craft your offer, help you map out your brand and ecosystem, plus much more, so you leave with clarity on exactly how to move forward. So it's just taking the core deliverable and putting a bit more teeth behind it, right? Blueprint, so on and so forth, okay? Keep it clear, keep it direct, make sure it's got a purpose. Don't load all this extra shit in that people don't need. And ultimately, you want to be able to sit back and go, that's a really, really nice package, okay? Throughout the document, you don't need to do a separate section on this, but throughout the document, where possible and where natural, weave in proof, right? I've worked with clients on this path who are startup, first 6 figures, all the way up to $1 million a month. This is the same framework I've been following day in, day out to make millions of dollars. Inside, I dive into my 3 steps I've used to generate millions myself, my clients, many more millions, right? Finally, you get a vault of proven campaigns, generate quick cash. There's everything from a short, sharp campaign to one that's generated 150K in 4 weeks, right? So little bits of proof throughout. This isn't as critical because you're going to have proof in your marketing, right? But layer it in to reinforce the strength of it. It can be your results, client results, whatever. Just keep it organic and make sure it feels natural. Making the actual offer, right? So I like to lay out very clearly duration, investment, expected ROI. I don't know if that's the right language, but it's a de-risking mechanism is what I like to put here. Okay. We're not playing the games of like, oh, you've read the doc, now DM me and I'll maybe tell you the price. Like just put it out there. Okay. If it's something people want, it's actually advantageous if they see the price sooner. A mentor once who his front end offer was like $2,000. And in the first minute of the first training video, he strategically mentioned that he had a 50K mastermind. The reason he did that is because ultimately he obviously wanted to ascend as many people as he could, the 2K to the 50K. And rather than hiding the 50K, he would put it out there straight away so that as they were going through the content, if they really liked it and really resonated and got results, they've had more time to marinate on the price. And the more time you spend with them then and the more results you get, the 50K starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, right? Like you might run like, oh, well, I made 30, so 50 grand's like an extra 20. Let's go, right? But if it was narrowed down to like a 30-second on a call and it's like, yeah, any other questions? Yeah, like how much is it? Right. And then and this is before we even get into like how much pressure it takes off delivery when people have logically thought through a purchase and it's not this huge emotionally charged in the moment selling into extreme pain like a lot of the industry does. There's a whole other side to this around delivery that we can talk about too. But anyway, tying this back, present the duration, present the price, and then this little section at the bottom, all this is doing, right? It's not some fancy psychological trick. It's just grounding the price in reality. Okay, so my academy is $2,000, right? It's no secret. This is for folks who are under the 15K a month mark. Is typically it is case by case where I might with them one-to-one, but it just depends. If they make one sale, it pays for itself. Okay, so if they take, this has got a year of coaching, a one-to-one call, all this sick content. If in an entire year they can't land one client, right? Then let's not even bother. Okay. So one client, you're in the green. Then you've got all that stuff and a whole year to let's see how far we can take it. Okay. Then I double down on that and I say, look, I'm even going to throw in this Rolodex, which is a $1,000 course. And this is especially focused on making 4 to 5 figures quickly. It's like 7, 8 different strategies to literally do that. So this is simply just de-risking. There's a lot of different ways that you can de-risk. You can de-risk through guarantees, payment plans, bonuses, all this kind of stuff. But in this one, this is how I'm tackling it. And so when you present the price, layer in some de-risking. What we're getting into now is a bit more nuanced and case by case. And this is why I like to, do these kickoff calls with people because I can tell them I'd recommend that. I wouldn't do that because I've seen so many different offers at this point. Then after that, it's just clear next steps, right? You want one clear path forward. If I'm selling the $2,000 thing, I just put the link in. If it's 10 or above, I'm just typically getting them to reply back to me and I'll send them the link just from a quality control perspective. But you just want it to be crystal clear. What do you want them to do next? Click here, message me this word, right? Make it simple. And then like I just mentioned, right? I've given you an example there that you guys can check out. But you can see, right? Completed the enrollment, just made the initial payment. Card went through, fine, got the payment out of the way. Yeah, want to jump in, all done, looking forward to it. Just got this done. Like this is transactions. And if we do some work together, we'll tailor it all in. Okay. That's offers and offer docs. Lead generation, 2 directions. Okay. Inbound, someone comes to you, hey, I want to work together. Outbound, you go to them, have a conversation, right? Inbound's the holy grail. That's what everyone wants. We love it. It's amazing. Happens in one of 2 ways. Either you put out a direct offer, someone reaches out, send them the offer, they become a client, or they've been following along for ages. We've successfully engineered the moment like we spoke about before. And even if you haven't put out a specific or new or different or certain offer, they just inbound and they're ready to go. Okay. These are the best and the easiest deals. Probably only one layer above this would be like referrals, where it's like, hey, Bob's ready to invest and Sally's sent them your way and the trust is like through the roof. Like they're probably slightly above, but this is as good as it gets pretty much. They send you the message. You just make sure you understand their situation, their goal, ensure you can help them, send off the offer, get paid. Very, very simple. Okay. Outbound, this is where everyone starts to go, oh shit, I don't want to do that. That's scary. It sounds like hard work. But the way that we do outbound is very different. This isn't cold outbound. Because the ecosystem is set up the way that we've just been through, or your variation of it, the people that we're talking to are very different. They're in a very different headspace. It's not like getting a message from some random. They've likely spent at least a little bit of time consuming your content. Okay. And so this is a massive benefit. Like the main thing we're trying to achieve is this, obviously, right? And if you want to stop there and not message anyone, then that's fine. You can do it. But I can tell you, you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you don't do at least some outbound. And this is a very different type of outbound. So I want to introduce you to a concept that I call hotspots. Okay. A hotspot is an indicator that someone in our ecosystem that we've built and we're running is paying attention. This means that they're following along with our content. They're interested in what we do. They have a problem that we may be able to solve. They have a goal that we may be able to help them achieve. They align with us as a leader and with our brand. They're interested in working with us. They're moving through our ecosystem closer and closer to becoming a customer. Okay. So what is a hotspot, right? When the ecosystem's up and running, it's going to depend how many elements you have in your ecosystem. But in my world, this is people who reply to my emails, people who like my posts on social media, people who show up to free workshops, you guys, people who request resources in my Facebook group, people who comment on a lot of my posts, people who watch and interact with my stories, people who join my Facebook group, people who buy my low ticket offers, people who share my content, right? These are all indicators that like, hey, maybe there's some potential here, right? They're all indicators. I'm on the radar. There's probably some work we could do together. Otherwise, doing that because it wouldn't be relevant. Make sense? Very, very powerful little signals. You could also consider them expressions of interest without people directly expressing interest. Very, very potent indicators. But here's an important thing that most people don't understand. Coming back to the conversation around timing with content. Imagine this scenario. My mate invites me around for dinner, right? He says, here at 7 p.m., we're having dinner. I show up, we have dinner, we have a lovely time, I leave, right? That's what's happening here. You're coming to me, we have a conversation, I sell you the thing. It's all good, right? It's on their clock, so timing works. What's happening when we go outbound though, is I'm entering your world kind of unannounced, although, we've got these hotspot things going on, but it's not on your terms in terms of timing. It's not on my terms in terms of timing, right? So this would be the equivalent if we run that same scenario of, I've got a mate that lives not far away. It'd be like me showing up to his place at like 8 o'clock in the morning and being like, hey, dude, we having dinner, right? He's going to be like, dude, go away. One, it's breakfast time. Two, I'm trying to get out the door. The kids need to get to school, blah, blah, like, right? The timing's not aligned. Okay, now that's not to say you're always going to get a negative reception. Quite often it's positive if your ecosystem's on point. But here's the thing. People do outbound and then they get pissed off when people don't immediately jump to their demands. You're entering their world, which means you're on their timeline. So don't get offended if your timelines don't match. That make sense? It's another way to nudge. It's another point of omnipresence. It's another touch point. I've also included a link there to a deeper dive on this hotspots concept for you guys. Sell by chat / email. So this is what we've ultimately been building towards. And the reason that I've left this to last, you guys might have been jumping on thinking Jacob's going to talk about selling without sales calls and he's going to give me the first thing we're going to talk about is the DM. I've left it to last on purpose because if the ecosystem is on point, the brand is on point, the messaging is on point, ideally, we don't have to work too hard here. Okay. Ideally, we don't want to spend too much time in the chat. We want all that stuff that we've done so far to do the heavy lifting. Why? Because it's leveraged. This is one-to-one. And we want to put our energy as much as possible into things that capture our energy and can run when we're not there. Okay. I've given you some scripts and stuff that you guys can play around with, but what I would encourage you to more think about is just this framework, right? And then talk like a human being. What's your current situation? Just try and, what's going on? Tell me about your situation. What are they trying to achieve? What roadblocks are they facing? What have they tried to fix it? And what's their timeline to moving forward? Okay. If you've got all that data, especially the first four, you should be able to make a pretty good gauge as to whether you can help them or not, which is the first thing we really need to understand. Then if you can help them, the next key factor is, well, do they even want help now? Because if they don't, they're like, this all sounds great, but I'm 6 months out. There's no point making an offer. And so we're really trying to tick a couple of major boxes there, which is, can we help them and do they want our help now if we can? And they're the things I want you to work through. I've given you scripts and stuff, but I would encourage you to just be human. These people have spent time with you. They don't want robotic sales. They want to talk to a human being. All right. You tick all those boxes. You invite them to check out the offer and you follow up to get a yes or a no. We just want to avoid maybes. Maybes are a pain in the ass. No's are great, right? Because I know a no isn't a no forever. It's probably a not now. Hopefully, I fulfilled on my promise of breaking down this system for you. A couple of little tangents and different paths we can explore there. But that in a nutshell, guys, is what I'm very grateful for has made me millions and millions and millions of dollars online, is that process, okay? Have changed. The pieces of the ecosystem have moved and shifted, but I told you I wanted to teach you principles. I told you I wanted to give you frameworks. And that's why we started broad and got more and more narrow, is because I want you to go and be able to take this and apply it to your individual situation. A couple of things we've covered. The $100 million game plan, clicks, focused attention to our offers, generates our net profit after tax. We split that between our lifestyle and our investing. We spoke about the digital wealth flywheel and how that ties together our life and our brand, the business and our investments, and how we want to integrate those as much as possible. Okay. We spoke about the lifestyle consulting system, in particular, the acquisition side of it, tofu, mofu, bofu, top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel, and how we want to take this steady approach, build the ecosystem each day and really be in this game for the long run. And then we went piece by piece through mine as an example. But obviously we can customize this to your situation. Okay. With all that said, this is my big pitch. There's a couple of ways we can go from here. One, you can take this and run with it on your own. I hope that these 2 hours, I'm pretty confident that was of value. If you can't take this and do something with it, you know, if that's that you want to go, then I think there's plenty for you to chew on, right? The second option is that we work on some or all of this together. And I say that because, you know, not everyone wants to work on every component, but we can go deep on certain parts, right? Like I've got guys that I work with who are doing, you know, 2, 3, 4, 500,000 a month. They don't need help with their ads, right? Quite often we're like unwinding and simplifying things. These are platinum clients, right? But sometimes, particularly earlier on, it's more broad and it's like, right, well, we got to get all these moving parts and we've got to get them in the right order. And then how do I add different things and when should I add them and what offer should I start with and how do I go from one-to-one to group and when should I add another, and all those types of those foundational questions. Okay. And so there's 3 options for you guys there. You can just drop me a message on Facebook or Instagram if you want to get more information about these offers. You want to see, you know, if I think I can help you, I'm more than happy to have the conversation there. Obviously, we won't get on a call, Facebook or Instagram. You can drop me an email as well if you prefer email. If you're under 10 to 15, I'm probably going to recommend the Academy. Like you saw, that's $2,000. We do a one-to-one kickoff call. You get access to the full strategy book for all this stuff, the dive version of it. And then we do 12 months of group coaching. If you're between 15 to 20, anywhere up to about 100, my inner circle, this is one-to-one work. And then if you're above 100K a month and you're either on this call or you see this, platinum is going to be the jam. That's just a version of inner circle for folks who are operating at that level. Whew. That was a bit longer than I was expecting, but I'm still impressed I managed to keep that into 2 hours. All righty. Well, if that's all the questions, I'm going to wrap up. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I hope you got value from that. I'll pull all the emails of the people. We obviously had a bunch of people that registered that didn't come live. So I'll pull all those emails down. I'll send out the replay. I'll send out the slides and drop me a message if you want to chat some more about doing some work together. But other than that, hope you'll have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.